later on after the 10 o'clock news. Elder law attorney Carol Thomas, who is also a Saginaw Bay Symphony Orchestra board member, will be with us to talk about elder law and an upcoming symphony concert. At 11 o'clock, we'll learn about the Moody Foundation and things they have going on. But we start out this hour talking to a gentleman who has been, I would say, influential in Michigan politics for some time. Currently, he is the state Senate Republican leader. He is also a gubernatorial candidate. And we say good morning to Eric Nesbitt. Leader Nesbitt, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Art. Thanks for having me on, and thanks for really covering the issues that really matter in the Saginaw area. And as we've seen over the last several years, it's been tougher and tougher for our families to make it in Michigan with the higher cost of energy and insurance and taxes. And that's why I'm running for governor, is to repeal the Green New Scam, to lower the cost of energy, and to repeal the state's property tax, and to lower the cost of insurance by repealing no fault in the state.
All right, so I have to ask you, I've been at this a long time. I'm 83 years old. I've been in the business for a long time. I've seen politicians come. I've seen politicians go. And most of them, not all, but most of them say, I'm going to reduce this, reduce that, reduce the other thing. And yet here we are today, and everything is up, up, up. We rarely see that reduction. Let's be specific. Let's talk about the property tax. How do you get rid of a property tax in the state of Michigan, and what do you replace it with?
Well, the first step is what the state property tax is that 6 mils that's on your taxes. And repealing that would be about $3 billion. So the average homeowner would save about $1,000 on their homes. And just last year, House Republicans identified $5 billion of waste, fraud, and abuse in our state government. And this is the first step of making sure that we have a smaller, more responsive government, and we help people stay in their homes, especially seniors on fixed incomes. I remember growing up on the farm, and my grandpa would, a telemarketer would call my grandpa, and they'd ask him, do you own your own home? And he goes, nope, just rent it from the government. And I think this is the first step of helping make sure people own their own homes. And this is also the part is that how do we continue to make sure that we're responsible to the taxpayer dollars of hardworking Michigan families? Over the last 8 years under Governor Whitmer and the Democrats in Lansing, you've seen the state budget increase by 50%, twice the rate of inflation, $30 billion increase. And I think as you look at the last 8 years, just taking out 10% of that growth would have been able to do away with the state property tax.
Is it realistic to think the budget's going to increase this year, or will it decrease? You haven't seen the numbers yet, but what's the reality of the budget this year? I've heard everything from 84 to 80 billion.
I mean, the governor proposed a budget of $88 billion. That included $1 billion of higher taxes. And that's the last thing Michigan families need are higher taxes. And so we're going to fight against those increase in taxes. We're going to continue to work to constrain the size of government. And the goal as we work with the House Republicans and the Senate Republicans is to have a budget that's actually smaller this year than it was last year. And it's something where people are feeling the pinch out there. The average family in Michigan makes $9,000 less than the average family does nationally, and yet they pay some of the highest rates for energy and insurance and property taxes in the Midwest, and that's wrong. And that's why I'm running for governor, is that things such as the Green New Scam that was passed 3 years ago that means they're going to ban natural gas and industrialize 300,000 to 500,000 acres of our best farm and forest land in the state. Repealing that would actually stop a $2,800 increase in energy costs for an average Michigan family and stop the industrialization of our farmland in the area.
Let me ask just for a minute, because recently, this week, in the 35th Senate District here in the Saginaw Bay City Midland area, we had a special election, which took well over a year to call, which a lot of people were not happy with. A Democrat, Shedrick Green, won, so nothing changes in the Senate right now for the next 8 months, correct?
Yes. So the Senate is 20 Democrats and 18 Republicans. And as we go into this fall, we're going to work hard to regain a majority of Republicans in the fall. And though the results in the, Saginaw Midland Bay, the 35th Senate District, aren't what we fought for, I think Jason Tunney put up a heck of a fight. He worked tirelessly against the stacked deck, fighting an uphill battle created by that governor who intentionally kept the seat vacant, as you said, for a year and a half, for an entire year and a half to manipulate the timing of this special election. And voters in the 35th Senate District, Midland Bay and Saginaw, didn't have a voice for that long. To our voters, to Republicans there, stay engaged, stay in the fight. We're going to make sure Democrats lose the seat in the fall and that Jason Tunney wins, and when we finally have a fair fight on a level playing field in November.
So let me ask you this, Eric. In terms of elections, when you look at history, midterm elections, mid-presidency elections tend to flow opposite of the party in power. Right now, most voters, and I've said this for a long time, most voters vote with their pocketbook. They go to the store, they see the prices, they put gas in their car, all of those things. Right now, any casual observer looking at the economy and what's happening at the grocery store level, if you're a Republican, you have to be a little worried about that, aren't you?
Well, that's why we have plans and policies that we're running on that will lower the cost of energy for working families by things such as repealing the Green New Scam, repealing the personal property tax to force utilities to lower rates by $1 billion, by reforming auto insurance to lower the cost for hardworking families to purchase auto insurance, and to repeal the state property tax to help seniors and families stay in their own or get home ownership. And this is why we're running to say we need to increase opportunities here in the state. As job creators have fled Michigan over the last several years, whether it was with the COVID lockdowns or higher property taxes, the repeal of right to work, what we've seen has been tougher and tougher for job creators to invest and make it in Michigan. And so we got to take on the regulations that are there in Lansing, take a blowtorch and say we're open for business, that people can invest and grow. And most importantly, when we're bottom 10 in education, we got to make sure that we provide choice, and we have to make sure that our kids are reading the basics, and we rip out this woke DEI indoctrination from our schools and expand trades. And as I travel the state, I've been to all 83 counties over the last year, is that message of lowering costs, increasing opportunities, and ensuring that there's a solid education, along with joining with President Trump to make sure we repealed, we banned sanctuary cities and deport every criminal illegal from the state. Those messages hit families around the state in a positive way of saying that we can move the state forward and implement solid conservative reforms to make sure more money stays in families' pocketbooks.
All right, Leader Nesbitt, hang on. I got to take a break, and we will be back. We're talking to Eric Nesbitt. He is the Republican leader in the state Senate and also candidate for governor. We will be back with him after all these notes.
The time has come to ask Attorney
Here on WSGW, we are talking to State Senate Republican leader Eric Nesbitt, who is also a candidate for governor, and you'll have a primary vote on that in August. Eric, let me ask about something that's been in the news a lot, data centers. And you talk about bringing, jobs back to Michigan, which is important. Where do data centers stack up in your priorities, so to speak?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and it's something that you continue to get the questions as over the last several months on the campaign trail. And what I've said from the beginning is that Michigan needs to be open for business, but we're not for sale. And that's why I oppose taxpayer-funded data center projects, and we'll make sure any development meets strict conditions. That includes no government subsidies. I mean, these tech companies have enough money as they are. We don't need to subsidize them. No increase in electricity costs for families. That means lower rates that they have to pay their full freight for any investment in new energy. And local approval in industrial zones, unlike what we've seen with solar and wind projects where they've run over the locals. We need to make sure that it fits the community in industrial zones. And it should have full water protection. I mean, we're the Great Lakes state, and it should mean lower property taxes for the surrounding community after that investment's made. And so it needs to come with conditions, and it needs to fit into the community where it's at.
So let me ask about that state control. We recently, within a couple of years ago, the state took away local control when it came to zoning for windmill type energy production and solar production. Isn't that kind of stepping on the priority of the local, taking away what they traditionally have power over?
Well, absolutely. And what it also did, so it really did two main things. One is it banned natural gas over the next 15 years in Michigan for production. And then two, it requires 100% renewable over the next 15 years, which will mean nearly 500,000 acres of farm and forest land will be industrialized because of the mandate. Only way they could do it was to rip away local control and to put that in the state, at the state level, and to run over on whether or not people actually want solar panels in their backyard. And what we're seeing is that it's making these San Francisco millionaires into billionaires. It's making our grid and energy less reliable. It's increasing costs for working families and job creators here in Michigan. And if we're going to allow families and job creators to actually make it in Michigan, then we have to do a few things. We got to stop in the Democrats' Green New Scam that's destroying our economy, ensure communities have local control of energy projects, and finish the Line 5 tunnel to lower costs and make Michigan energy dominant. And we have to be open for businesses as part of it. But this mandate is going to increase costs and decrease reliability and make us less attractive for job growth and investment and families being able to make it here.
One of the things that caught my attention was the restriction on natural gas production. Are we not sitting on one of the biggest reserves?
Oh, we have the best storage capacity in the U.S. Michigan does. That's what's able to help regulate the prices in the wintertime, even when we have really high, really high usage because of, like this last winter was a cold winter. And if we're going to compete and win in the 21st century, we have to be energy dominant. And that's joining with President Trump to make sure we install Line 5, the Great Lakes Tunnel, rebuild that in bedrock to protect our Great Lakes. That means that we're open for small modular reactors, open for nuclear, and we allow for new natural gas plants to be built and invested here in the state. That's going to help make us energy dominant, and that's going to help us attract jobs, lower costs for working families, and create better paying careers.
Are you sensing there's no appetite for that on the other side?
Well, it was passed on a partisan level. One Democrat could have stopped that 3 years ago. Now, I am hearing that there's some buyer's regret. You see that with, Chris Swanson running against Jocelyn Benson in the Democratic primary. He says that as he's traveled the state, he just hears the disgust from the locals that's out there. And so it's good to see a prominent Democrat like the sheriff of Genesee, coming out and saying, you know what, I support local control and don't believe that we should industrialize 500,000 acres of farm and forest land in our state.
But right now, no appetite for it. In the Senate or Democrats in the House, you don't see anything happening there.
Yeah, House Republicans are working to pass a repeal, working to pass a new energy bill that says we're open for business, but Governor Whitmer is opposed to it. She wants to keep us energy constrained, and Senate Democrats care more about the coastal environmental elites than whether or not families and job creators can actually make it in Michigan.
Yeah. Let's talk budget for a minute. We touched on it earlier, but we going to have one done in a timely fashion this year?
Well, we got to make sure the budget's right, and this means more money in hardworking taxpayers' pockets. This means that we ensure that our kids are able to read. Right now, only 3 out of 5 of our kids aren't able to read at grade level. And when they're not able to read at grade level by 4th grade, we know that they have a nearly 70% chance of doing one or two things in their life, being in social welfare or going to jail. That paints a very stark picture for the future of Michigan. I want to paint a very bright and vibrant picture for the future of Michigan to make sure that every kid is able to read. We bring back the trades to high school to make sure that our kids are ready for trades and family supporting jobs. I mean, I was talking to a 22-year-old kid the other day. Again, a 22-year-old hates being called a kid, but he says in high school, everybody says you got to go on to college. And so he did that. And he did a couple semesters there, racked up $35,000 of debt, decided it wasn't his thing, went off, became a med tech, which was some additional training and licensing. And he has a fine job now, except now he has this big albatross on the back of $35,000 of college debt that didn't help him and didn't help others. We got to get back to the trades in high school to show that there's other opportunities that are out there. And as I travel around the state, whether you're in Macomb or Marquette, this is what people want to hear and want to see, is that people can be ready.
And that seems to me, anyway, in talking to folks, that's one issue that crosses political lines. We spent many, many years telling everybody they had to get 4-year degrees at the sacrifice of the trades, and now we're paying for it. I tell youngsters regularly, go learn welding. You'll make more than the average college graduate any day of the week.
Yeah, there's a lot of opportunities out there, and this is part of the reason why we really have to shake up the status quo in Lansing. And that just changing the status quo a little is not going to fix things. What's going to do it is that what we've seen over the last several years from Democrats in Lansing is that they've systematically eroded Michigan education standards. They've repealed the key components of the read by third grade law, removed student outcomes as a measurement of teacher effectiveness, and ended the A through F grading scale that helps parents understand how their schools is performing. And every step, they've granted more power to out-of-touch bureaucrats in Lansing while taking it away from the real experts, parents and teachers. No more. As governor, I'm going to ensure every Michigan student can read by third grade, help every Michigan student be career ready so they can pursue the American dream, and empower parents, not bureaucrats in Lansing, by signing President Trump's tuition tax credit to make sure every family has a choice of where they send their kids to school.
All right. Can you hold on for another segment?
Sure.
Okay, we'll be back after these notes. We're talking to Senate Republican leader Eric Nesbitt, also a candidate for governor.
Since 1947,
Back with you, and we are chatting with Eric Nesbitt. He is the Senate leader in the state House. The state Senate, and he is also a candidate for governor. I want to talk I just want to finish up with education a little bit here. There was a recent story that the universities that are teaching the teachers, so to speak, will produce somewhere around 6,000 new teachers, but we're losing 8,000 teachers. How do we stem the outflow of educators in this state? We throw money at the problem and we don't get results. What's the answer in education, Eric?
Yeah, over the last 10 years, what we've seen here in Michigan is that there's been an increase of administrative staff by about 10%. Yeah, we have 3% less students and actually 5% less teachers over the last decade. You need to turn around by elevating the position, by the profession, and saying that this is that you can make a real difference in there. And this is part of it, is like the overall morale and the overall culture is accountability and leadership at both the superintendent level and the principal level, to say that there's strong expectations. One is to enact a read by third grade law. Every study proves that reading is the foundation of a successful future, and yet what we've seen out of the Democrats in Lansing have repeatedly lowered the bar for students and teachers, and we see that now where only 3 out of 5 fourth graders can read at grade level. Enacting the third grade reading law so every Michigan student is set up for success in schools and beyond. Additional reading support so no students fall through the cracks. We'll enact these tutoring scholarships that a few years ago Gretchen Whitmer cruelly vetoed, and something that Jocelyn Benson wouldn't sign, for kids who need a little extra help learning how to read, and will require summer reading programs to help students catch up. But this also means that with teachers, and it goes to both colleges and universities, but also in the classroom as literacy coaches in every elementary school. We've seen this be successful in other states, and studies prove that phonics-based science of reading is the most effective approach to teaching kids how to read. And so we'll ensure every Michigan elementary school has literacy coaches trained in the science of reading on site to assist teachers with the critical strategy that our universities incorporate as part of their elementary education. So I think that's a foundation. And then it's also, as we mentioned, that we need to be able to raise the bar for students, teachers, and administrators, get back to basics. What we've seen is a more push and woke DEIism in our schools instead of getting back to the basics. I mean, I was talking to a parent a little bit ago. They have a 12-year-old sixth grader, and this sixth grader was sent down to the principal's office because he refused to use the they/them pronoun for another boy in class. When he got to the principal's office, God bless this kid, he goes, I thought with President Trump in office now, we didn't have to do this nonsense. So next governor, I'm going to have that kid's back. We got to get back to the basics, reading, writing, arithmetic, raising the bar, making sure that in high school that, we actually get back to the careers and trades and shop classes that I think people expect, and make sure that student progress is a key factor in evaluating teachers also. That was repealed a few years ago. People want expectations and accountability, and when you don't have that, morale fails and people don't view it as a professional job as it should be. There's a lot of great teachers out. There's a lot of great teachers out there. Yeah. They need to make sure that there's accountability and there's a recognition for what they're doing, and that making sure that the political leaders have their backs as they make sure our kids are able to read, learn, write, and do arithmetic and be prepared for the job force.
Have we put too much decision-making power in the hands of the State Board of Education at the sacrifice of local boards?
I think there's the challenge. I think we need to have the state superintendent be appointed by the governor and have that a cabinet level position to make sure that there's accountability and responsibility. Right now, name one of the members of the state State Board of Education. Name three members. You don't know who they are. You know who the governor is. And the accountability, the buck should stop at the governor's office. And for some of these decisions, they should be made at the local level. For some of these accountability decisions and allowing, making sure that every kid is able to read, we need to drive that statewide. And we need to encourage the best teachers to serve where they're needed. My administration is going to work to provide bonuses to highly effective teachers who take positions in schools where they can have the biggest impact. And another, as I've talked to some folks at intermediate school districts, is that we need to crack down on chronic absenteeism. Kids can't learn if they're not attending school, and they shouldn't be blindly passed along to the next grade if they've missed a substantial portion of the year.
Well, all I can say is good luck with the educational picture, because in a state where we spend a ton of money on education and get poor results, we certainly need something to be done. No two ways about it.
It matters for our kids. It matters for our future. And it needs to be about the kids, not the adults. And I think that's the reminder as we move forward.
All right, let me see if I can get you to hang on just for one more segment, and then we'll be done. But we are talking to the Republican leader of the state Senate and candidate for governor, Eric Nesbitt. We will be back with him after these notes.
Ready to update your home?
About my friends at Quick Lane Freeland, where they remind us as we drive Michigan roads the number of potholes we're liable to encounter, and what those potholes can do to the undercarriage of your car in terms of alignment and damage to equipment, something you should have checked pretty regularly. And our friends at Quick Lane Freeland are offering you a complimentary alignment check to make sure your car is in good stead. To tell you why alignment is so important, I've asked John to come in to give us a few words about it this morning.
If your vehicle's wheels are aligned correctly, it will not pull to the left or to the right when driving. It also prevents improper tread wear, so your tires last longer. A wheel alignment should be checked often because normal steering wear and tear can cause your alignment to go out, in addition to potholes and railroad crossings. A correct alignment also reduces rolling resistance on your tires. for better fuel mileage.
Thanks, John. Stop in today and have that complimentary alignment check on your car. And remember this, if you need tires, Quick Lane Freeland sells all of their new tires at just $5 over cost. Quick Lane Freeland, where you should go for all of your routine maintenance, but particularly today, a complimentary alignment check. Part of the McDonald Ford complex in Freeland, McDonald Ford and Quick Lane Freeland, two names standing ready to help you with all your automotive needs in 2026. Nesbitt, he is the Senate Republican leader and candidate for governor. We had a call off the air agreeing with your trade school discussion. He is a former shop teacher who believes that we really need to get back to the trades, which brings me to my other topic. Even if we were able to bring back thousands and thousands of jobs with new industry in the state of Michigan, where are we going to house them? Housing is a critical issue, isn't it?
Yeah, housing absolutely is a critical issue. And there's a few things. One, this is why it's so important that we go ahead and eliminate the state property tax to lower the cost of housing, get back to the trades to make sure that folks can actually work with their hands again, stop giving free housing to illegal immigrants and work with President Trump to deport them. And then also make sure that as we expand the trades, that we also eliminate a lot of these redundant state, bureaucracy and red tape that's holding folks back from investing in growing jobs here in the state and investing in the number of housing stock. I mean, people are hurting, but it starts, I think, as you mentioned, the trade side. Try to find a plumber, an electrician, a contractor right now. In the last 25 years, I think we've been telling a lie to half our kids and saying that college was the only option. Mike Rowe from Dirty Jobs, he was in Michigan about a year ago speaking. And Mike goes, for every 5 people retiring from the trades, there's only 2 people replacing them. Boy, that's going to be even tougher challenge to rebuild our manufacturing base, to build housing, to rebuild our infrastructure, and to reinvest in our communities. But the biggest impediment in the short term is government regulations and red tape. The Michigan Home Builders Association came out with a study last year saying that the average new home costs $95,000 more because of the red tape at the state, federal, and local level. And I don't know about you, but $95,000 is a lot of money. That's about a quarter of the cost of a new home. And so you have the average new home buyer, first-time home buyer, being close to 40 years old. And just 20 years ago, it was in the upper 20s.
Yeah.
You can't rent the American dream. You have to be able to own the American dream. And that's why I'm running for governor, is to take a blowtorch to the bureaucracy in Lansing, to say we're open for business, eliminate the state property tax, to lower costs for working families and our seniors, and to deport every criminal illegal, to make sure that, we're giving back to Americans instead of free housing, illegal services, and social welfare to criminal illegal aliens. And I'm sorry, after COVID, I think there's just too many people that we were paying to leave the workforce on social welfare.
Yeah.
And if you're going to sit in your mom's basement eating bombs and playing PS5, you should do it on your own dime, not on the taxpayer's dime. Let's get them to work. Let's make it happen.
Let me ask, Eric, as you look at the state of Michigan today, as it's structured, as it sits, optimist or pessimist?
Well, I'm always an optimist. And this is the thing, is that we have a decision to make in this year's election. Do we continue on the status quo? We're a bottom 10 state in education, 11th most violent state in the nation, second highest rate of unemployment, 40th in median income. Average family makes $9,000 less than the average family does nationally. But we have less job opportunities and worse educational outcomes. But we have a chance this year, and that's why I'm running for governor. We have a chance this year to shake up the status quo, to repeal the Green New Scam, lower the cost of energy, repeal the state property tax, take a flamethrower to the bureaucracy in Lansing and say we're open for business and return accountability to the people, and to make sure we fix our schools. And we can start growing again. But if we do nothing, if we just keep the status quo the way it is, we could lose up to 700,000 people the next 30 years. And as I travel around the state, again, I'm a farm boy from Southwest Michigan, and it's a very diverse state as you go around the state. And I was sitting down with a group of Middle Eastern business owners about a year ago in Wayne County, and one of them was about my age, mid-40s. And he immigrated here when he was 12 with his parents. And this story shows, like, as we celebrate 250 years as a country, there's a lot of hope still to be had. And this immigrant never graduated high school. His parents started this little auto mechanic garage, 2 bays, and he's grown into a multi-million-dollar business remanufacturing auto parts, dirty work, but good work. And he goes, I couldn't have done this anywhere else in the world. And I pushed back on him a little bit. And I go, there's other countries with free market economics, rule of law, private property rights. And he goes, no, the challenge is other countries, like you go to France and Paris, there's 4 generations of Algerians. And they're still Algerian, they're not French. You go to Berlin, there's 4 generations of Turks. They're still Turkish, they're not German. Yep. He looks me in the eye, he goes, I'm an American. My kids are American. You and I may have a different religion, but I'm a capitalist. And as we celebrate 250 years as a country this year, I think it's important to realize that as I travel around the state, families and hard workers around our state wants government in the background, schools that work, energy and insurance and housing they can afford, a good paying job that they can put a good day's work in, a good retirement. And Michigan's a beautiful state. The lakes, the forest, the hunting land around our state. I mean, no other state's like the beauty here in Michigan. We have so many advantages. But they expect a government that works for them, right, and they expect a government that's actually in the background, having good roads, good schools, making sure if they invest and grow in a business that they're able to not have to wait 5 years for a permit from the state. And that's why I'm running for governor, so that everybody can make it in Michigan again.
Good way to end the conversation. Eric, thank you much for being with us and for your time this morning. We appreciate it.
Hey, thanks, Art. God bless you.
Same to you. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye now. Eric Nesbitt, Bye-bye. Candidate for governor and the Republican leader in the state Senate. News coming up next, then we'll be back.
Pet owners and parents know